I kept quiet for years, but not anymore. It was a whisper that turned into a roar, one that began behind closed doors, in the hushed corners of Montecito, far from the paparazzi's flashes, and has now exploded onto the world stage. For the first time ever, Doria Ragland, Meghan Markle's own mother, has decided to speak out. And what she's saying, it's nothing short of devastating. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Why now? Why, after years of carefully curated silence and gentle support, has Doria finally drawn a line? And more importantly, what did Meghan lie about that forced her mother's hand? Buckle up, because the truth? It's uglier than anyone could have imagined. The perfect image. Cracks from within. Let's rewind. Remember November 2020? In a vulnerable op-ed for the New York Times, Meghan Markle revealed she had suffered a devastating miscarriage in July of that year. The world paused. Headlines mourned. Sympathy poured in from every corner of the internet. It was raw, emotional. The Duchess of Sussex painted a haunting image, one of a woman alone, in pain, watching her dreams of motherhood slip away. But what if that narrative wasn't just curated? What if it was manufactured? Doria Ragland, the woman who raised Meghan through divorce, drama, and Hollywood dreams, has reportedly called it out, and not gently. Sources close to the situation say Doria's recent private statements include phrases like blatant deception, public manipulation, and emotional exploitation for sympathy and PR gain. What's worse, Doria allegedly told Confidence she pleaded with Meghan not to publish that essay, calling it dangerously misleading. So what made Meghan go through with it anyway? She told me there was no miscarriage. Those are the exact words. According to a longtime friend of Doria Ragland who recently broke their silence in a UK-based interview. Let that sink in. She told me there was no miscarriage. At least, not in July. She was never pregnant that summer. If this statement is even half true, we're no longer in the realm of royal drama or tabloid gossip. We're now deep in the land of fabricated grief, a deeply manipulative PR strategy dressed in pain and tears. But why would Meghan lie about something so sensitive? So sacred? It all goes back to timing. July 2020 was a particularly bad PR season for the Sussexes. Meghan's court battles with British tabloids were intensifying. Netflix was expressing early doubts. The Spotify deal was facing internal pushback. And the public perception? Waning. She needed a reset. And according to Doria's circle, she created one. When sympathy becomes strategy. Meghan's New York Times piece wasn't just a personal reflection. It was a masterclass in emotional rebranding. Public sympathy skyrocketed. Celebrities, journalists, and even some royal family critics came out in support. Meghan's strength became the new talking point. But behind the scenes, Doria was reportedly devastated. Not because her daughter had suffered a loss, but because, in her view, Meghan hadn't. And worse, she was using Doria's own maternal image to sell the lie. According to another source, Doria refused to be in the same room with Meghan after the op-ed came out. She felt betrayed. She didn't sign up for this kind of circus. That distance explains a lot, doesn't it? The increasing absence of Doria from Meghan's public appearances. The lack of birthday tributes, holiday sightings, even social media tags. What once looked like a quietly dignified mother-daughter bond now appears more like a Cold War in couture. The Oprah interview. Missing piece or calculated silence. Fast forward to 2021. Millions tuned in as Meghan and Harry sat opposite Oprah Winfrey under the Californian sun. They talked racism, royal indifference, mental health, and, yes, the miscarriage. But did you notice something? Doria wasn't there. Not once was she invited to speak, nor did she appear in any post-interview media. This seemed odd, considering how integral her support supposedly was to Meghan's journey. But maybe now we know why. If Doria had been present, even just on screen, the risk of contradiction would have been massive. The image of a unified, grieving family might have crumbled in real time. Insiders now speculate that Doria's absence wasn't just a scheduling oversight, it was intentional damage control. Montecito meltdown, a mother's quiet rebellion. Let's be clear, Doria Ragland is no fame seeker. She's a yoga instructor, a social worker, a woman who's famously described herself as Zen with boundaries. But what happens when those boundaries are pushed too far? According to a neighbor who spoke under anonymity, Doria was seen crying in her garden shortly after Meghan's op-ed went viral. She wasn't weeping with pride or grief. She was reportedly overheard saying, "She's gone too far this time." Too far. That phrase has become the rallying cry of insiders watching Meghan's increasingly turbulent PR moves. From wardrobe faux pas at solemn occasions, to dramatic lawsuits, to headline-chasing Netflix content, many say Doria had long tried to ground her daughter. But this felt unforgivable. Lies, legacy, and the Markle name. Here's the kicker. This isn't just about Meghan's personal choices. This is about the integrity of every woman who has experienced a real miscarriage, silently, painfully, without cameras, contracts, or curated op-eds. If Meghan faked hers, or even bent the truth, she's not just exploiting public sympathy. She's stealing real pain from real women. Doria Ragland, whose career has centered around emotional support and advocacy, likely saw this as a betrayal of everything she stands for. Imagine being a grief counselor and watching your own daughter possibly fabricate grief for strategic gain. Would you stay silent? The power of a mother's silence, and why it finally broke. So why now? Why, after nearly 3 years of whisperings and private distance, is Doria finally breaking her silence? One theory, Meghan's next media venture is said to include more personal essays and possibly a second memoir. Early leaks suggest she might revisit the miscarriage story again. Doria's inner circle allegedly urged her to step in. This time, she has to stop her before it's too late, said a source. Because at a certain point, silence becomes complicity. And Doria Ragland, quiet as she's been, isn't willing to co-sign a lie that could redefine her legacy and tarnish the truth for millions of grieving women. What this means for Meghan and her future narratives. This is more than just a family fallout. This is a potential collapse of credibility. If even a shred of what Doria or her circle are saying is true, Meghan risks losing one of the few things more powerful than royal titles: public trust. Every speech she gives, every children's book she writes, every documentary she produces, will now carry the weight of a single question. Was it true? And for someone who built her brand on authenticity and speaking her truth, that's the kind of question that doesn't fade. It festers. What can we learn from this? Here's the hard truth. When public figures use private pain as a tool, and that pain turns out to be questionable, it doesn't just backfire on them. It ripples outward. It cheapens genuine stories. It creates doubt where there should be solidarity. And it fractures the very trust that gives celebrities their platform in the first place. So what can we take away? Pain isn't PR. If it is, it's not pain, it's performance. Silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes, it's strength waiting for the right moment. And truth, it has a funny way of surfacing, no matter how deep you try to bury it. Final thoughts. When mothers speak, we should listen. Doria Ragland didn't sign up for this circus. She didn't chase the spotlight. She didn't sell interviews. She didn't leak tapes. She stayed silent. Until now. And when a woman like that finally speaks, we owe it to her to listen. Whether you love Meghan or question her every move, this is one of those moments that demands reflection. Because if the people who know you best start doubting your truth, maybe it's time to check the story you've been telling. Not just to the world, but to yourself. Join the conversation. What do you think? Do you believe Meghan's 2020 miscarriage story was genuine, or was it a calculated PR move? Do you think Doria Ragland is brave for speaking out, or should she have remained loyal? Let's talk. Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with a friend, or post your own take on social media with the hashtag Doria's Truth. And if you've ever felt gaslit by public figures, if you've ever questioned your own instincts when something felt off, remember, you're not alone. Truth always finds its way to the surface, even in Montecito.